And at the same time, we should also remember that the US faces certain geopolitical pressures, and China is the key to that, and we are also facing the same pressures. So negotiations based on the same geostrategic positioning might be helpful for both sides.
Merci beaucoup. Jessica Van Leeuwen.
Jessica Van Leeuwen.
Thank you very much, Chair, Commissioner, Minister. A deal can only be reached when the counterpart accepts your term. So we need conversation, not confrontation. And behind the deal, there's companies, there's workers, there's families depending on it. Those are our priorities. So we support you very much, Commissioner, in finding a very balanced deal. But we do have a red line. And that is an equal playing field for our farmers. And it is non-negotiable. This means no chlorine-washed chicken, because that only compensates for poor hygiene, while our farmers need to comply with the strictest hygiene and quality rules. And no meat from animals raised with growth hormones and antibiotic growth promoters. And on countermeasures, let us be very cautious. American tariffs burden Americans, but European countermeasures will hit European jobs. Thank you very much.
Nina Carberry.
Thank you, Nina Carberry.
President, Commissioner, Minister, global trade is running low on much-needed certainty. And while we can afford some breathing room until August 1st, the need for a clear framework and comprehensive trade agreement with the United States looms large. Ireland's stance remains unchanged. We have constantly called for zero tariffs. Businesses require predictability and stability, from SMEs in Connemara to multinationals along our urban commuter belts. In fact, uncertainty itself may be the highest cost, because when businesses hesitate, investment slows. So while we support you fully, Commissioner, and your team to get the best outcome, I want to again reiterate the focus that we must also move beyond the United States. We need to remove the many barriers that still exist within our own EU single market and simplifying the rules that govern it. We can unlock more trade across Europe. Our economies, jobs and people depend on it. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Ludek Niedermayer.
Thank you, Ludek Niedermayer.
Thank you. Donald Trump has pushed US trade policy almost 100 years back. Indeed, in the 40s, the US tariffs fall to 10% and then continue declining to pre-Trump 2 to 3%. Now they are heading steeply up. On the top of that, we have that incredible unpredictability. The first who will suffer will be US citizens, US households, who will pay more for the goods and have lower availability of the goods. But the global economy will suffer too, and obviously our businesses will suffer. But let's face the reality. This is where we stand. I am glad to see here that the Commission has strong support from the Council and majority of Parliament to find the best possible solution. I hope we will reach it, but we must be ready also for the other result. At the same time, extending the network of our partnership, but mainly promoting the single market and remove the barriers. That's the way how to eliminate negative impacts of White House policy. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Paulo do Nascimento.
Paulo do Nascimento.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Sr. Comissário, 50% ontem, 10% hoje e amanhã o que será? Perante essa instabilidade, tenho que elogiar pela paciência democrática. Mas os sucessivos adiamentos da conclusão das negociações comerciais com os Estados Unidos já estão a ter um impacto significativo nas empresas e cidadãos dos dois lados do Atlântico, como também na percepção que ambos, europeus e americanos, têm entre si. Juntos representamos quase 30% do comércio global e 43% do PIB mundial. A instabilidade e a incerteza são mais para os negócios, mas são ainda piores para as relações transatlânticas que outrora eram intocáveis. Mas a nossa história não nos perdoaria se desistíssemos desta nossa relação transatlântica, pela partilha dos mesmos valores, mas também por razões económicas e estratégicas, com o Atlântico que nos une e nos torna o centro do mundo. Esta é uma necessidade política. Não devemos nem podemos ceder precipitadamente ou aceitar o que não autorizamos aos europeus. Devemos manter as três premissas que nos têm guiado: negociar ao máximo aceitável com os Estados Unidos, diversificar as nossas parcerias comerciais com o resto do mundo, reocupando o lugar de influência que perdemos e reforçar o nosso mercado interno, de modo a aumentar a nossa autonomia estratégica. Boa sorte, Sr. Comissário.
Merci beaucoup. Les contraintes de temps m'empêchent d'accorder les demandes de carton bleu. Nous poursuivons. Walter Becker.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Commissaris, collega's, tariefverhogingen, dat zijn politieke placebo's, dat zei professor Richard Galton. Economische nonsens die een politiek doel moeten dienen. In tegenstelling tot president Trump geloven wij beter niet in deze placebo's. De focus van Europa moet zijn het beschermen van onze welvaart, van onze jobs en het inkomen van onze mensen. Europa is niet gebaat bij escalatie. Een deal kan de schade voor onze bedrijven, KMO's en talloze jobs misschien ook beperken. Neem deze verantwoordelijkheid, meneer de commissaris, maar niet op kap van één sector. Verdeel de lasten over de sectoren en over de lidstaten. Maar ook met een deal moeten wij als Europa volop investeren in onze economie, onze onafhankelijkheid en onze concurrentiëteit. Het IMF berekende dat de Europese handelsbelemmeringen ons jaarlijks €1700 miljard kosten. Het wegwerken daarvan kan €3800 per Europeaan opbrengen. Dus, meneer de commissaris, deal of geen deal.
De VS kan niet zonder ons en wij kunnen niet zonder hen. Wij zijn een markt waar de VS vele afhankelijkheden heeft. Daarom moeten wij niet over ons heen laten lopen en tegenmaatregelen voorbereiden. Wij moeten bereid zijn om even onze tanden te laten zien. Wij willen geen handelsoorlog, dat creëert alleen maar verliezers en geeft China en Rusland alleen maar meer speling op veiligheidsgebied. En dat is wat zij willen, een zwakke transatlantische band. Dat laten wij ons niet gebeuren. Dank u wel.
Merci infiniment d'avoir respecté largement votre temps de parole. Maria Walsh.
There is no winner when it comes to tariffs between two of the world's largest economies. We've heard this repeatedly throughout this debate. Jobs are lost, prices of goods go up, the cost of doing business goes up, and ultimately no one benefits from it. Not Americans, not Europeans, neither consumers nor companies gain from what is going on. Giving up on trade relations is not the answer when more than $4 billion worth of goods are crossing the Atlantic. In my own country of Ireland, particularly the west of Ireland, pharmaceutical products, world-leading Irish alcohol like whiskies and gins, other agricultural products like butter and cheeses worth billions meet the demand for quality products of the American consumer. We now have an additional 3 weeks to reach an agreement with the US, and I hope that this delay is a signal that the Trump administration recognises that economic growth stems not from isolation, but from well-functioning relationships with reliable trading partners. And I hope ourselves reform the single market, get better support for our businesses, and continue to grow the EU.
Merci beaucoup. Miralis Rajapantela.
Αξιότιμε Πρόεδρε, αξιότιμε Επίτροπε, αξιότιμοι συνάδελφοι. Η σημερινή συζήτηση για τις διαπραγματεύσεις μεταξύ Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης και Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών έρχεται σε μια κρίσιμη στιγμή για το μέλλον της ευρωπαϊκής οικονομίας. Η κοινή μας αγορά, το ισχυρότερο όπλο της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, στηρίζεται στην επιχειρηματικότητα και στο ελεύθερο εμπόριο με τους εταίρους μας ανά το παγκόσμιο. Ακριβώς γι' αυτό τον λόγο θέλω να τονίσω ότι ένας οικονομικός πόλεμος δεν θα ωφελέσει κανένα, ούτε στην Ευρώπη ούτε στην Αμερική. Αντιθέτως, βλέπουμε ήδη ότι δημιουργεί αβεβαιότητα, πλήττει τις επιχειρήσεις, τους εργαζόμενους και τους καταναλωτές και στις δύο πλευρές του Ατλαντικού. Χρειάζεται σοβαρή και μεθοδική δουλειά για τη σύναψη μιας εμπορικής συμφωνίας που θα άρει όσον το δυνατόν περισσότερα εμπόδια και θα επιτρέψει στα αγαθά και στις υπηρεσίες να διακινούνται ελεύθερα, χωρίς δασμούς μεταξύ των δύο υπήρων. Αυτό θα ενισχύσει την ανταγωνιστικότητα, θα δημιουργήσει νέες ευκαιρίες και θα στηρίξει τη βιώσιμη ανάπτυξη. Σας ευχαριστώ.
Merci beaucoup. Nous ouvrons à présent la procédure Catch the Eye. Beaucoup d'entre vous seront frustrés, mais il ne m'est pas possible de donner la parole à toutes celles et tous ceux qui ont demandé un temps de parole, compte tenu des contraintes de temps. Pour commencer, je donne la parole à Regina Doherty.
Commissioner, I think we can all agree that free and open trade is good for everyone. It's the best way to make sure that we spread wealth and prosperity. So it stands to reason that tariffs are bad for everybody and tariffs are going to make all our countries poorer. So I'm glad that since the beginning of this ludicrous one-man trade war, the EU and you particularly have stood consistently as the adult in the room, because we all should be clear, in all of our member states, ordinary working people are looking on, are in fear of losing their jobs and in economies faltering. So what we must do is we must protect our agri-food and our drinks industries, our pharmaceutical companies, our heavy good manufacturing. There are so many other sectors that tariffs, even 10%, will result in job losses. A reprieve till August the 1st is a good move, but what we need is a resolution. We should not be talking about retaliation at this point. We should be talking about a pragmatic solution and European leading the way. So I want to just wish you the very, very good, to assure you that we all stand behind you and your team, and we're very, very proud of the practical approach that you've taken in the last number of months. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup, cher collègue. Maria Grappini. Micro.
Domnule președinte, domnule comisar, negocierea comercială între Uniunea Europeană și Statele Unite este vitală, dar trebuie să recunoaștem că au trecut 8 luni de la alegerea președintelui Trump și nu înaintăm. Dumneavoastră ați spus, între altele, că în curând, ați folosit această sintagmă, că vom avea textul în curând. Ne puteți spune mai mult ce cuprinde acest text? Care vor fi până la urmă negocierile? Pentru că producătorii din Uniunea Europeană nu pot să stea pe loc. Din țara mea avem export de vin, avem export de produse agricole. Ce fac? Ei nu au curajul să mai producă, să mai investească pentru acea capacitate. Și apoi ați vorbit de acorduri cu alte state. De acord, vreți să faceți acord cu India. Acordurile comerciale pot să submineze producția industrială și vă dau un exemplu. Plăcile ceramice din România, Polonia, Franța sunt acum la pământ. Industria aceasta este la pământ pentru că au intrat din India plăci ceramice cu preț la jumătate. Pentru că India, știm bine, e cel mai mare poluator. Nu respectă nimic, nu plătește nimic. Deci cum să facem să nu subminăm industria europeană? Mulțumesc.
Merci beaucoup, cher collègue. Sebastian Tinkinen.
Mr. President. Even an imperfect deal is better than no deal at all. What do we have to gain by not fully trying to uphold the transatlantic partnership? The US government has made it clear that being bystanders and free riders is not an option. This includes not only defence, but also economy. How can we ever reach a zero-tariff agreement if we are not ready to work for it? Europe is eyeing a critical choice: where to go to replace Russian energy and Chinese imports. Make no mistake, if the problem lies in the East, then the solution must be found in the West. We have an opportunity to make the Atlantic the most prosperous economic zone of our time. So let's not throw this chance away just for petty political battles. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, cher collègue. Dernière oratrice, Aguirre-Goïta Martinez. Vous avez la parole. Vous avez demandé la parole, vous l'avez.
Merci beaucoup. Bueno, aranceles generalizado del 10%, automoción 25%, acero y aluminio 50%, amenazas del 17% a productos agroalimentarios, anuncios del 50% al cobre, 200% a productos farmacéuticos. Hoy vencía esa amenaza que nos hacía Donald Trump. Ahora la siguiente fecha es el 1 de agosto y estamos a la espera de unas cartas que ya han recibido algunos países como Corea del Sur o Japón. La frase de Donald Trump es que recibir una carta significa un trato, y yo creo que tenemos que decir claramente que una carta con una decisión sobre un arancel es una acción unilateral con toque dictatorial. Y, desde luego, tampoco Donald Trump debiera condicionarnos con quiénes nos relacionamos o no, como es el caso de los BRICS, donde hay países con los que yo, desde luego, no tengo ningún interés en tener fuertes relaciones, pero, desde luego, ningunear a quienes suponen la mitad de la población y el 40% del PIB, pues otra evidencia más de su despotismo. Miren, ojalá lleguemos a un acuerdo que sea beneficioso, pero si no es así, les pedimos que quizás sea la Unión Europea quien deba poner plazo límite y activar el plan B.
Merci beaucoup. La procédure catch the eye est close. Pour les autres collègues, il vous est possible de faire une déclaration écrite qui sera inscrite au procès-verbal in extenso de notre séance. Et je donne la parole au commissaire Šefčovič.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, Madame la Ministre, honourable members. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for all your interventions, and I'm sure what was, in most cases, well-meant advice. But at the same time, I would like to tell you that these negotiations are like no other. And from the moment one, the Commission and myself, we are doing exactly as you ask us to do, to focus on the negotiated solutions and be prepared for any eventuality. This is the case from the day one. This is the case today. And you probably know me by now, and in especially such a delicate negotiation situations as we have right now, I prefer good results to strong statements or tough headlines, because I know how all this, what we are discussing with our American partners, would affect jobs, how it would affect economy, and how trade is important for the economic future of the European Union. Some of you have been referring to the industries. I can tell you that I spend an enormous amount of time talking to the industries which are most impacted by this transatlantic tension. And I can tell you that 99% of them is calling for negotiated solutions. They've been built over the decades as transatlantic supply chains, and they do not want to be caught in the crossfire of ever-growing tariffs from both sides. So I think that we have to invest as much as possible in negotiations, because the other alternative is always there. And I can tell you that I will pursue it to the last possible moment and try to do my best to land this deal and to get the best possible result. Many of you have been highlighting, and I really would like to thank you for that, importance of the trade diversifications and other agreements. And we've been discussing it at different venues, but quick recapitulation, because there I also would need your help. We concluded our negotiations with Mercosur, with Mexico. We are very close to conclude with Indonesia. We are working very hard with India and United Arab Emirates, and I believe that we can conclude the negotiations this year. And we are continuing negotiations with Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and re-engage with Australia. But I would need your help in presenting these deals in positive terms. I would need your help to accelerate the procedures to approval. I would need your help to talk to your domestic audiences back in your member states about the need to ratify these agreements, because otherwise they will just stay on the papers, and we are losing precious time from long pause between they are negotiated and actually they enter into force. And I can tell you that I have the same message, and I'm repeating it at every single Trade Ministerial Council, and I'm glad that more and more colleagues are understanding this from the same perspective. If you allow me one thought on our farming community. As you know, I was in intense discussions with our farmers in my previous mandate. I know how they feel, I know what they are worried about, I know how they've been overburdened by excessive reporting, and how they've been afraid about the possible trade deals which might negatively impact their well-being. Therefore, we are extremely careful when we negotiate agricultural chapters. Therefore, we are looking for the deals where the partners are net importers of our agri-food products, like Mexico, like UAE. And I think if you travel to these countries, just go to the store, and you will see that these are usually European brands, with most of the agri-food products coming from Europe. We are, in fact, the global superpower in exporting agri-food products. More than 230 billion, with a positive balance of 70 billion. And we want to make sure that it would stay like that. But I would really resent the picture that every trade deal we do, it's at the sacrifice of our farmers, because it's not true. And I'm ready to engage in any discussions together with Agriculture Commissioner Christopher Hansen, who is doing a fantastic job in being in touch with the farming community, who is helping me with negotiating these trade deals, because we want to have a fair deal for everyone. And in the current turbulent situation on a global trading sphere, it's very clear that we need new market access, and we need it now, because European Union economy is deriving half of its GDP from trading. So please help me to make it faster, to make it better, and to deliver better perception of our trade deals with your constituencies, with your voters, because you are influential people and you have that authority, and they will believe you. And if you allow me the last point, because I know how important it is for Mr. Warborn and for all the colleagues from INTA, WTO. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I can tell you that I have excellent relationship, personal and professional, with Dr. Ngozi, Director General of the WTO. We've been together in many multilateral sessions. And she knows that Europe is a #1 supporter of reform WTO. But the reform, it must be. We've been having the WTO session, the OECD meeting in Paris. There was not a single one minister who says that everything is fine and rosy. Every single one was saying we need to reform. The measures we wanted to take, for example, for e-commerce, for fisheries, for dispute settlement mechanism, are long overdue. And I think we have to help WTO, we have to help Director General to reform this organisation, and I think the clock is really, really ticking, and the next ministerial in Cameroon in the spring of 2026 would be absolutely crucial in that regard. So I can assure you that we fully understand the WTO, even in the current state with all the issues which are there, we consider it as absolute basic necessary platform for global trading practices, because these are the rules which have been built over 70, 80 years since the Second World War. So I can assure you that we will all be championing of the functional, modernised WTO, and that we will do our utmost to make sure that the reforms which are necessary will be really done. So thank you very much for this debate. I know how tense it is. I know how important it is. I can only promise you that we will work until the last minute when we see that it's possible to land a deal, because I think that's our duty and obligation. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Šefčovič. Pour le Conseil, je donne la parole à Madame la Ministre Marie Biron.
Merci beaucoup, President, honourable members, Commissioner. Thank you again for inviting the Council to this debate. As many of you said, in particular Warborn from EPP, it is important that we do not escalate the situation. The US is our strategic partner and ally. Our trade and investment relationship remains of key importance. But also, as Carlsbo from Renew said, Europe is also important for the US. And that is why we remain committed to find a fair and mutually beneficial negotiated solution. And at the same time, we need to focus on ourselves. What we can do to help our industry to enhance competitiveness, what we can do to strengthen our
internal market, what we can do to enhance our competitiveness and how we can ensure economic growth. Also, we have to focus on making trade agreements with other countries, as several of you mentioned today. I also listened very closely to your comments about not to break WTO, that the trade has to be predictable, that the EU also should not be dictated, that we should not give in, and that we should remain firm. As Van Brem said from S&D, Svenja Hahn from Renew, and Lange from S&D, they said it very clearly that we should not accept a deal at any cost. We want a deal, and we are ready for a deal, but not at any cost. If the United States is serious about partnership, the next days must be used wisely. We trust the European Commission to lead these negotiations on behalf of the Union with determination and unity, and we fully support its effort to reach a fair and mutually beneficial solution. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. Le débat est clos.